Hello there, my name is Gamer Pivot. I'm here to ask you all one simple question. Is a gamer entitled to full ownership of their purchased games? No, says PlayStation. You must use our digital code. No, says Bill Gates. You must limit your playtime to stop climate change. Yes, but actually no, says Nintendo. Your copy exists on a cartridge the size of a piece of Captain Crunch, and you must never emulate our console. No, says Steam. You must buy only our DRM-laden copy, and can only access it through your account. Want a refund? Did you play longer than 1 hour? But I rejected those answers. I chose the impossible. I chose emulation.
Except I didn't, because I couldn't. Because Xenia crashes after 20 minutes of playing. Seriously though, in my experience, RPCS3 is the only console emulator for 7th gen and up that doesn't crash. And even then you gotta tweak the settings super right. Hell, this video could have even been a Deadpool 2013 video, except there's no PC port and I couldn't download the ROM I wanted from a totally legit website. Not even the base PC version works, because it crashes all the time as well, so I had to play the remastered version. Anyways, BioShock. The game centers around some Lolbertarian named Andrew Ryan, whose name I'm pretty sure is a play on author Ayn Rand's name. He's basically an anti-government type whose only principle is the free market. In fact, he so insisted on not regulating markets that he built an underwater city just to get away from government interference. He also declined to intervene even as his city was becoming increasingly swarmed by ultraviolent steroid addicts. This is a key part of the game's story and the in-game economy. Adam was a name for a super steroid derived from the stomach of a sea slug. It allows you to rewrite your DNA to change everything from your physical appearance and strength to giving yourself the ability to tase people with your bare hands. This change in Rapturian society was pushed by a smuggler called Frank Fontaine, who employed people to sell his product to people among other goods smuggled from the surface. It also allowed him to gather a following which he could undermine Ryan's government with for his own personal gain. Ryan basically agonized over whether or not to crack down on Fontaine, but he eventually did kill him. But then some guy named Atlas starts a communist revolution and uses splicers, which deploy weaponized plasmids for the first time on Ryan's people. Splicers, FYI, are people who use Adam to enhance themselves, and plasmids are individual genetic superpowers sold in vials. Ryan responded by waging war on Atlas's followers. He also tried to compete by harvesting Adam from corpses with little sisters who are genetically enhanced children. Wait. Rapture's not an island, is it? Protected by big, spliced men in diving suits. This, along with the abuse of Adam by the people of Rapture, led to it becoming a war-torn hellhole filled with insane people who will literally attack anyone for a whiff of sea slug juice. Which leads us to the main game, where your character Jack, after being in a plane crash, swims to a lighthouse in the distance. He then gets introduced to a Redditor-esque sign and travels into the bathysphere, where Andrew Ryan monologues about government bad, religion bad, and sweat on your forehead or something. We then enter the city and get a Discord call from Atlas, who tells us to pick up a wrench and inject strange fluids into our veins, which causes us to pass out. Wait, did I just take heroin? And then we go set off on a quest to kill Andrew Ryan because corporation bad. We try to head to Neptune's bounty, but Ryan closes the door on us remotely, so we head to the medical pavilion, but he does the same there. Atlas then overrides the door, but not before Ryan accuses us of being a Fed. Once there, we make a pit stop at Dr. Steinman's office, who mutilates women using Adam to make them perfect.
She won't stay still! I want to make them beautiful, but they always turn out wrong! That was too fat!
We then modify his body with bullets and steal his key so we can head to the emergency access. On the way, we run into Dr. Tannenbaum, who shoots a splicer trying to kill a little girl and tells us to not hurt the little girl. Atlas encourages us to harvest her for more Adam, but Tannenbaum gives us a gene tonic which allows us to save the little sister instead, for less Adam. Okay, my name's not Jeff, I'm not interested in harvesting children. We then kill a Big Daddy and rescue a little sister, open the emergency access to the bathysphere, and head to Neptune's bounty. At Neptune's bounty, we kill more splicers and Big Daddies, and then we run into a man named Peach who offers us a reward for taking pictures of spider splicers splicers who can crawl on ceilings. The camera we use for this apparently can parse genetic information from subjects in the picture and give us info on them. This is actually a mechanic that can be used later in the game, which is strange because it's 1960. Meanwhile, AI-powered smartphones in 2026 can't even do that, and people back then were dreaming about flying cars or something. After carrying out this task, we then enter Peach Wilkins' lair and immediately have to leave our weapons at the door before squaring up with his schizo ass. After killing him, we move to Smuggler's hideout, where we attempt to meet Atlas and save his wife and child hiding in a submarine, but Ryan sicks a wave of splicers on us and blows up the submarine. We then take a detour through Arcadia and encounter Houdini splicers who can literally teleport. Great, what are they gonna do next? Fly and shoot lasers? Wait a minute. While looking around, Ryan talks about the time he owned a forest.
On the surface, I once bought a forest. The parasites claimed that the land belonged to God and demanded that I establish a public park there. Why? So the rabble could stand slack-jawed under the canopy and pretend that it was paradise earthed. When Congress moved to nationalize my forest, I burnt it to the ground. God did not plant the seeds of this Arcadia. I did.
So wait, the government only wanted you to put a public park in your forest and you decided to commit mass deforestation through arson? That sounds petty and counterproductive, but okay. Ryan then floods the Arcadia with a poison gas to kill the plants. We stop him by getting a Lazarus vector from his ex-girlfriend, but he kills her and we have to finish the thing by going on a fetch quest. After putting it together and deploying it, we get attacked by a horde of splicers until the vector finishes filtering the poison. We then head off to Fort Frolic, which is controlled by Sandra Cohen, a theater kid
Freak.
who has us kill off a few friends of his and take pictures for him before giving us a gene tonic and letting us go to Hephaestus. Yeah, he 100% gooned to that when we left. In Hephaestus, we build a bomb to short-circuit the door leading to Ryan's office, but he responds by blowing up Rapture. So wait, he put a self-destruct button on his own city? Did he ever splice up at any time, or was he always just this crazy? Oh yeah, he also pulls a Darth Vader and says he is our dad. Okay, well then call me Kermit because I want to slide down the sewer after hearing about that. Once we make it to his office, he mocks us for obeying and then reveals that we were created in a lab and tells us to beat him to death with a golf club. This isn't a fetish, is it? Afterwards, we grab his genetic key and stop the city from self-destructing. And then Atlas... Well, see, that's the thing. There is no Atlas. Remember Fontaine from earlier? Yeah, apparently Fontaine's been operating under an alias the whole time and got us to kill Ryan for his own purpose of taking over Rapture. Thankfully, Tannenbaum from earlier intervenes and helps us escape. She then tells us that she broke some of Fontaine's conditioning
Somehow while we slept.
and tells us where to find the formula that will completely rid Fontaine of control over our mind. You know, at this rate, dying from a plane crash would have been preferable. Matter of fact, being the guy who designed Ocean Gate would be less depressing. While rifling through the apartment of Dr. Suchong, one of the doctors who experimented on us, we learn more about him and the little sisters he created, including how he died.
Clinical trial protector system, plasmid lot 255. Dr. Suchong, client Ryan Industries. Very frustrating day. I can't seem to get the damn big daddies to imprint on the little brats. The protection bond is just not forming.
Papa Suchong?
Get away. Maybe if I modify the genetic sequence to... Shush! The sequence to allow for... Get away, you filthy little shit! What are you doing? Get back! Get back!
And Fontaine insults us some while we were finding our way to his lair.
You broke the spell! But laying all your chips on Mother Goose, it's not like you've never been double-crossed before. You know what I'm saying? Hoof it to Point Prometheus. We'll discuss this like men. You, me, submarine topside, and more Adam than you can possibly imagine.
To do this, we have to put on a Big Daddy suit and escort a little sister who opens doors for us, leading to an elevator to Fontaine. We then fight Fontaine, who has collected all the Adam in the city and turned himself into a living statue. Oh, that's why he called himself Atlas. I get it now. Statue or not, we're able to kill him, much like everyone else, by inundating him with bullets, plasmids, and a homemade flamethrower while draining Adam from him with a needle. He then smacks us across the room and copes about being our family before the little sisters stab him to death. Live by the sword, I suppose. Now, there are 3 endings depending on whether you saved all the little sisters, harvested them, or only harvested a few. But like I said, I'm not Palm Beach Pete, so I saved them all. In the good ending, you end up getting all the little sisters back to the surface and adopting a few, who end up surrounding your deathbed. In the bad and mid endings, you end up attempting to take over the world by hijacking a submarine. But anyways, that's the story of BioShock. Now, segueing away from the story, the game itself is entertaining and interesting, albeit complicated at times. I think the thing that stands out the most with the gameplay isn't any one particular factor, but rather a combination of things that ultimately leads to one recurring symptom throughout the game, which is that it is very tedious and repetitive as it goes on. Each individual section of the game has something different to show to the player, such as a new character or a new weapon/mechanic, and is unique in its aesthetics. But with that said, the gameplay loop is extremely similar throughout. You go through an area, get a new weapon, power-up mechanic, kill a few big daddies, hack turrets, safes, and vending machines, buy more ammo, and ultimately face off against a mini-boss fight, and move on. And this gets boring, quite frankly, by the time you reach Fort Frolic, and becomes infinitely harder as you go on, especially as challenges get harder, leading to it becoming more frustrating. Another thing to know is that the enemies, while not impossible, are consistently tanky and love to spam attacks every time you turn around, to the point where if you were trying to just stand still and fight with them, you would get cheesed in like 2 seconds. You basically have to treat every enemy like a bug, in the sense that if you don't straight up demolish them within 10 seconds of engaging them, the fight becomes resource heavy and you die. Now, there is a revive mechanic, Vita Chambers, which allow for you to continue the game without restarting from a save, but you don't get back any of your ammo or resources, so if you waste all your ammo, the game turns into a slog quickly, and you end up needing to reload your last save anyway. Also, the splicers in the game seem to literally spawn out of nowhere and randomly, so if you spend too long fighting a big daddy and some splicers waltz in, you could drain your resources further and even soft lock yourself. Ammo, Eve, the fuel for atom-powered plasmids, medkits, various tools are stored in vending machines that require money. Slots for plasmids and tonics, as well as plasmids and tonics themselves, require Atom to purchase, because the gray chain, free market, must move even as the Empire collapses. Lastly, cameras and turrets are always perfectly placed to screw you over, while alerting copter bots with machine guns for a 1-minute period. And trying to hack them, especially with how packed enemies in an area can be, might make you rage quit after a while. Now, as annoying as the game can be and how difficult it can be to juggle the various parts of gameplay, each aspect still gives the game life in its own way. The in-game economy using money and Atom play well into the game's story and world, the different plasmids and tonics are interesting and look and feel cool to use, and they even serve different practical purposes for different situations. However, not all plasmids are created equal. And I haven't even talked about the best part, the weapons. Yeah, boy. Given it's an FPS, BioShock gives you 6 different guns to use and a camera and a wrench. The wrench is the first weapon, and once you find the pistol or anything else, really, it's pretty useless without the Bloodlust tonic. And the pistol is a basic 6-round 38 special revolver. The machine gun is an M1921 Thompson, chambered in 45 ACP. The shotgun is a generic 12-gauge pump of some kind. The chemical thrower is a homemade flamethrower that can also shoot liquid nitrogen and electric gel. The crossbow shoots steel-tipped incendiary and electric tripwire bolts, and in its default state with a standard steel-tipped bolt, it can one-shot a splicer with a headshot. It has to be perfect though. And finally, the camera parses genetic info from live and dead targets, and researches them to give you insight into enemy vulnerabilities. Finally, the hacking of turrets serves as a good puzzle, and gives you goodies locked in safes, can make turrets and cameras friendly to you and hostile to splicers, and can lower vending machine prices on top of tonics like Vending Expert. And now, I would like to delve into something completely different. Typically, I would end it here, but with this episode of Retro Throwback, I would like to do something different and introduce a new section. One where I dissect the game's characters, the players, and the stage of these virtual worlds. Or in Rapture's case, the losers, creeps, and weirdos. BioShock's main characters, despite each being quite different, have one similarity, in that they represent clashing ideologies and worldviews that are ultimately all motivated by self-interest. Tannenbaum is motivated by guilt, given that she created the Little Sisters alongside Dr. Suchong. Suchong was a Chinese doctor who simply wanted to benefit himself. Even in his backstory, he gave opium to invading Japanese soldiers to save himself, and then ultimately fled China in 1946 to avoid the government. But I think Fontaine and Ryan represent the extremes of pure self-interest and pure idealism, despite Ryan being comparatively tame. For instance, Fontaine didn't technically cause the splicers to become addicted to Adam, nor become hyper-violent maniacs, but he did give them Adam, and in fact hired Suchong and Tannenbaum to develop Adam. And he also used splicers as a way to take down Ryan, using the Atlas name as a cover. In other words, a criminal smuggler LARPs as a communist revolutionary to cover for the fact that he wants to take over what another man has created and run it for his own personal gain. He even tries to reason with the player, trying to evoke a picture of family and purpose before trying to kill us and being stabbed to death.
I remember when me and the crowd put you in that sub. You were no more than 2. You were my ace in the hole, but you were also the closest thing I ever had to a son. And that's why this hurts. Betrayal, kid. Life ain't strictly business.
I had you built. I sent you topside. I called you back, showed you what you was capable of. Even that life you thought you had, that was something I dreamed up and had tattooed inside your head. Now, if you don't call that family, I don't know what is.
And as for Ryan, to be honest, he isn't even the biggest bad, but he's honestly more of a red herring. To his credit, I know I just bullied him for being a Lolbertarian at the beginning.
It's okay, he's a fictional character, he has no feelings.
He did actually prove in a way that without government intervention or bureaucratic oversight, one can accomplish the impossible, even building a city underwater. But to be honest, his problem is not the lack of intellect or even being wrong. His real problem is an ego fueled by idealism and pettiness, leading to a sense of insecurity. On the surface, he bought a forest, and when the government told him to put a park in it, he burned it down.
Congress moved to nationalize my forest. I burnt it to the ground. God did not plant the seeds of this Arcadia. I did.
In other words, this man created Transit from Black Ops 2 for the sake of having total ownership over his own personal forests, which might seem reasonable to some, but he potentially risked creating a region-wide wildfire because he didn't want to put a park in his forest. It shows how far he's willing to go over something that in the end would have been preferable to what ended up happening. He also does this at several points throughout the game. He kills his ex-girlfriend because he doesn't want to rebuild the Lazarus Vector. Because he wants to kill us, he also sets the city to self-destruct near the end of the game, even knowing he won't live. Because he doesn't want Atlas to have the city, which, given Atlas was actually Fontaine the whole time, would be a valid reaction until you consider that he's the progenitor of a lot of Rapture's issues. He's the one who hesitated to crack down on Fontaine futuristics when he was in control of Rapture, and by the time he did, plasmids were so common, he was forced to not only fight Fontaine/Atlas, but adopt plasmids as well, which only worsened things on top of causing damage to the city via a civil war. The worst part, he still ultimately is more mad at the player who is doing more to improve things than Ryan ever did or could at that point by killing splicers than he is at his own shortcomings or even Atlas. But I guess at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that the things that set BioShock in motion is not any ideology or even gang violence and super steroids or even capitalism bad, but rather a combination of character flaws and idealism that resulted in the total collapse of fiction's greatest civilization through purity spiraling. And with that said, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, please be sure to like the video and then subscribe to my channel. Also join my Discord server if you want to keep up to date and get some behind the scenes content. Also keep up with me in case you ever don't ever see me again or in case something happens to the channel. And with that said, peace out.